everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Robin Comey and I'm Executive Director of the Branford Early Childhood Collaborative. Welcome. We have a small group, but an intimate group, and I think that we will be able to record this for future watching for folks that could not make it tonight. I know that even myself, I have about two or three other opportunities tonight that got in the way of sometimes our schedules get so busy, especially around this time of the year with graduations and school commitments. I wanted to welcome, we have Jane Lee. She is from the All Our Kin organization, which is a statewide organization that really serves family care, the family care business community. I'm going to let her do her introductions herself, but I did want to tell you a little bit about my organization, our organization. It is, as I said, the Branford Early Childhood Collaborative, and we are have been around for maybe nearly 20 years, and have been a community local early childhood collaborative. And what that does is it works with the early childhood community in our town, and brings all the stakeholders together, such as our children's librarians, our children's health partners, our schools, all of our providers that we can find here in Branford. We have a really fair amount of child care centers in Branford that we've been working with in partnership for a long time. And just other stakeholders in the community, our town departments and that sort of thing that care about improving the lives of children and families with children. And so a lot of the work that we do, we have some programs, a lot of literacy programs, early literacy programs, as well as some professional development programs. We offer free professional development monthly to folks in the early care field, anywhere from daycare to preschool to kindergarten. Really try to cater our topics around issues that and topics that are informative to that group. And over the years, of course, we've done a lot of different programming, but those are our two staples, our townwide literacy programs, such as our Week of the Young Child, and then our provider program, our early care provider roundtable programs. So we're really happy to, we're always striving to reach out to more communities and to more providers. And with this COVID crisis, we've been doing a lot of our programming online, as you might imagine, like everyone else, and doing weekly Zoom meetings for folks to network and learn more about how to support their programs, as many of them are closed or have undue financial stress. So we are here for you. We know how important family care providers are to the recovery of our economy. We have a significant opportunity here, I think, to improve the number and of course the quality, but the number of child care providers, the family care providers, the licensed family care providers in our communities across the state. Their small group size really makes it ideal for dealing with what we're facing now with the COVID-19. So we are, just as our first sort of attempt in reaching out to provide some more resources that might be helpful. So if you're not able to be here in person, we will certainly be videotaping this and sending it out. So as I said, we have Jane Lee from All Our Kin. I had the pleasure of working with Jane about maybe 2 to 3 years ago, I would say. We did a 10-week family care business series. I personally just watched from the sidelines and was able to see women who want to own their own business evolve from unsure and a little bit overwhelmed in what it would take to open up a home daycare and a home in their business and open up a small business. And I watched them bloom into confident business owners and really had all the tools. And Jane was responsible for providing them with all the tools that they needed to operate a successful business. And then, of course, you were able to offer more for them even after we finished the 10-week business series. So that's so fantastic. Hi, Jane.
Hi. So yeah, I'm Jane Lee, and I'm from All Our Kin. I'm based in the New Haven office, but All Our Kin serves all of Connecticut, as well as the Bronx in New York. So I'm just really happy to be back. I thank you, Robin, for inviting me back. I really appreciate it. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself and what I used to do and where I am with things right now. So as Robin mentioned, the job that I do for All Our Kin is as a business coach. And up until pretty recently, what that meant is teaching classes like the business series that kind of went through the nuts and bolts of doing business and starting a business. How do you write a contract? How do you do marketing? How do you set a budget? Things like that. And the other piece of what I used to do is sort of one-on-one work to help folks get up to speed and put into practice a lot of the things that they've learned, or helping businesses that have been in business for a while to kind of brush up on their business skills and take it to the next level. Well, obviously all of that changed in probably the middle of March. And so now all of my work is completely virtual. And the topics that I traditionally used to work on are not, they're still in the back burner, but they're not the ones that are front and center at this point. And so I just want to give a summary of what I think are the most important sort of business and financial strategies to keep in mind as of right now. With that, let me share my screen. I have a short presentation, and then I'm hoping, oh, you know what, it does say host disabled participation, so I think you need to make me a co-host. So I want to give a short presentation with PowerPoint, and the hope is after that we can have a discussion and a question session. Okay, so I should be able to go there now. Screen 2, share. I think I'm sharing, right? There we go. Yes. Okay, terrific. And so I guess welcome to the Family Child Care Provider Roundtable. And our two organizations are the BECC and the All Our Kin. I guess the thing I want you to take away from this slide is just looking at the date. Today is June 16th. I am giving you information that is current as of today. I think 2 weeks ago, this presentation would have been slightly different. And 2 weeks from now, the presentation would be slightly different. I think things are still moving incredibly fast in terms of trying to keep up with the programs that are out there, trying to keep up with the different and changing rules and the climate. So please do remember, this is the middle of June right now, but things are changing quite quickly. Okay, so multiple strategies over a whole bunch of time. So I think really the three most important points that I want to make is that there's really no one size fits all, right? People are open, family child care businesses are open, they're closed, they're reduced, they have care for kids, they don't have care for kids, or even if they do have care for kids, it either represents a large portion of their income, a little portion of their income, etc. Every program is different, right? And so there's no one size fits all. I wish it were the case that you could just go and sign up for 2 programs and you've covered it all and you're done. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. And so you're going to have to look at your own situation and actually pick and choose the combination of things that are right for you. Second, dealing with the unknown. Obviously, COVID-19, the virus itself is a lot of unknown. But there's a lot of unknown and lots of new information coming. Do we wear masks? Do we not wear masks? When do we wash our hands? How often do we wash our hands? How long do we wash our hands? And so on and so on. So there's a lot of content that we don't understand. But the other aspect of what we don't understand is how long this is going to be, right? So it's not as if, you know, today or tomorrow we can say it's going to be over. There's not a deadline specific date. And so we're not only planning for things that we feel and know today, but we're planning for, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we don't know how long that tomorrow is going to be. So it's dealing with that unknown. And the last thing is just that there's a lot out there. Don't feel that, oh, just because I didn't get this grant or that loan, that there isn't anything else. There are so many things that are out there. They all do take a little bit of effort to get, but it's that combination of things that you're going to want to get that will actually bring you to the place where you need to be. Again, federal programs, state programs, like state programs, the OEC, local programs, grants from private companies and corporations or foundations, many, many different things, okay? So it's just, we need to keep all of that in mind. Okay, so with that, I just want to go through some of the biggest programs that we have. So I think probably what most people are familiar with are these forgivable loans, the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and I'd like to talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. And the slightly less well-known Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is, people call it the EIDL loan. The EIDL loan, when it first came out, so both of these were a result of the CARES Act, which was that $2.2 trillion package that was announced in late March. Both of these are forgivable loans, and the EIDL loan was supposed to deliver up to $10,000 in a forgivable advance. Both of these loans got inundated with applicants. And in the end, the EIDL loan was really only $1,000 per employee. And for most of this time, it's been closed and it's been open only to agricultural workers. In fact, it's actually only just today that the EIDL loan has opened up again for general loans. But again, the amount that is forgivable is only $1,000 per employee. So the other large federal program that I think most providers are benefiting from is the unemployment. There's 3 different aspects of the federal unemployment package that has come out. The first most important point is that self-employed individuals are now eligible, and the eligibility period starts on February 2nd and it goes all the way to December. The second important piece of this benefit is that you get an additional $600 a week from late March to late July. And so what that means is even if you're eligible for $1 of unemployment, you get $1 plus 600. Or it could be that you're eligible for $400 a week on unemployment, then you get an additional 600 on top. But remember, the 600 is only for a limited period. And then the third piece of this unemployment package from the federal government is that there's an additional 13 weeks. So in Connecticut, what that means is Connecticut traditionally had 26 weeks of unemployment. You get an additional 13 weeks because of the federal package for a total of 39 weeks in total.
Hey, Jane, can I jump in?
Oh, absolutely. Please.
So, I do know a little bit about the self-employed PUA, we call it, the PUA
Mm-hmm.
plan. My husband's getting it
Oh,
from
great.
time to time, when he's not working that week. And of course, he'll go on and claim when he is. But the new sort of sticky point is, and I just want to clarify this for those who might be watching. And of course, this is all time sensitive, as you pointed out at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, most self-employed people are only getting a maximum of $198 for the regular, like your first bullet there. The self-employed are now eligible from 2/2 to 12/26. Right now, they did not have a way. The state of Connecticut Department of Labor did not really have a way to figure out to take their tax returns. Everybody's uploading their tax returns,
Right.
and they're trying to figure out a way that they can look at everybody's tax returns electronically, of course, and create a formula that will, the formula is a federal formula, but to be able to determine how much they will actually get. So what they did was they decided to give everybody a base of 198, give or take, and or no more than 198, and then as well as this additional 600. But at this point, I think what's going on now, and what I've heard is many people have been waiting for, who are self-employed, is that they are going through what's called redetermination. And so they are looking at, or putting everybody's tax returns through some sort of computer programs between the State Department, State Tax Department, and the Department of Labor. And some people are now getting redetermination amounts, and those redetermination amounts, when they happen, will be back, will go back to, as you said, February 2nd or whenever you stopped working. So that's been a little bit of a sticking point. They haven't quite been disclosed, haven't been too upfront about that with folks, and communicating that to folks. But I did want to put that in, that if you're only getting that certain amount, it eventually may, as they redetermine everybody, it will hopefully make that amount larger.
Thank you, Robin. I did not know that. I mean, I knew that most of the people that were applying right now were getting the 198, and they tell you right up front that it's 198 until they can verify. I didn't realize that it was going in waves. So thank you so much for that information. I think it's a pretty tricky interface, but I think when it comes through, it's been incredibly successful for people. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on. And I'd really like to focus a little bit on the Paycheck Protection Program, because I'm so incredibly passionate about this right now. The Paycheck Protection Program came in it kind of came into public view in an incredibly bumpy way. You have to apply through a bank. The banks were inundated. They were giving customers wrong information. People were getting bounced around all over the place. They couldn't figure out which banks were and weren't doing it. And even the ones that were supposed to be doing it couldn't figure out how to do it. They didn't know what the rules were. It took forever. It was really, really tough. But right now, after all these weeks, it has gotten into an incredibly sweet spot. And of course, now that it has, they are closing the loan. The last absolute deadline for approval of the PPP loan is going to be June 30th. Fortunately, right now, loans are taking probably a week or even less to get approved once you upload your application. And so I just want to, as a loan, it would be for companies or nonprofits that have fewer than 500 employees. As a loan, you could keep it for 5 years. It's a 1% term. 60% of it has to be, at least 60% has to be used on salary, 40% on non-salary. And right now you have up to 24 weeks to gather your expenses. And if you do have employees, you can have up to December to rehire your employees. So that is all pertinent information. But I think for many family child care providers who are owner operators, meaning that you don't have an employee, there's some other incredibly pertinent information here that I just want to underscore. That if you don't have employees, that's absolutely fine because you are the first employee. You're employee number one. You do not need a special bank account. So, and even if I've talked to many providers who say, oh yeah, I applied like, a month and a half ago, I never heard back. So I figured out, no. If you thought that you applied somewhere, the banks were kind of in a mess and you need to reapply again, we'll find another place to reapply. Not a problem. If you don't have your 2019 taxes, that's absolutely fine. You can apply with either 2018 taxes or by filling it out in a Schedule C with supporting documentation. As I've said, it's incredibly fast and easy. What you can use is a fintech if your bank isn't doing the loans anymore. So a fintech would be a place like PayPal, for example. Or Intuit, who is who puts out QuickBooks, and so these are internet financial companies, and Cabbage being the other one. Cabbage is spelled like the vegetable except with a K, Cabbage.com, and they've been incredibly fast at turning these loans around. For the self-employed person, what you're going to be looking at is your Schedule C and your net income, which is on your row 31. That's what they consider to be your yearly income. So you divide that by 12 to get a monthly income, and it's 2.5 months of your 2.5 months worth of your own salary as an operator owner. If you have employees, you would add employee salary on that. But again, it's the last line in red. Everybody who is eligible should absolutely apply right now. I have providers who I help apply, and about a week later, they've got thousands of dollars just plunked into their bank account. It's pretty phenomenal. And again, just in the last couple of weeks, they have changed the forgiveness rules. So it's virtually guaranteed that you will be able to get all of it forgiven. Okay. Any questions on that so far? No. Okay. So I'm going to go on. Again, unemployment. I might actually want to turn this over to Robin, I'm not sure, but really just to say it is a two-step process. You need to be denied from Connecticut unemployment in order to become eligible for the federal unemployment. And it's actually in the system, it's two different systems. So you literally have you open up an account in the Connecticut system, and then you wait until you get denied, and then you literally open up another account in a different system that does the federal unemployment, the PUA. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You're right. Yeah. That is exactly the step for that. And it can be confusing. The system is a little clunky. Oh, good. You have the website.
Yeah.
I've seen that one too many times. It is a little clunky, and you just have to make sure you're going to the correct websites when you sign in and where you're going, because it's a different button. you're going to a different website. You're going to the Reemploy Connecticut website when you go to sign in, and sometimes people can get locked out very easily, and it becomes very frustrating very easily.
Yes.
I am happy, just as you said, Jane, you were happy to help people with the PPP grants. I am more than happy to help people walk through some of these, the PUA claims especially. I seem to have figured out quite a few of them, and if
that's fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Robin.
mean, it's a team effort. I mean, truly.
Absolutely.
Because, we're all here for the first time, and
yes.
We need to help each other out. So I am happy as to be thought of as a resource for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, really kludgy. So this blue button here is the button, this is where you would start. And this is the Connecticut unemployment site that you would want to launch. Right above the blue button, there is a quick 4-page sort of, don't forget to do this and that. So you want to keep this in mind as you navigate your unemployment claim. So you would do that by proceeding into that website and then applying for benefits down here in the green button. Okay, so at first you will get an email that says thank you for your application, and then sometime later you'll get another email that says your application has been processed, and then hopefully soon after that you'll get a piece of mail where you've been denied. Denied meaning your weekly benefit rate is 0. Is what you'll get in a letter. And so once you have that letter, the second step will be to go into this red button. And once you go into the red button, you have another sort of page and a link that says instructions and file PUA, federal pandemic unemployment assistance. And so you read through the instructions. I actually had a person say, how do I go from there? And you press continue, and then you read through some more instructions, and then you come to this teeny little box that says proceed to reemploy CT. You don't even know what that is, but that's where you go. And here you go ahead and create a second account. This is a different account from what you did for Connecticut. This is your federal account, and it is in a website called Reemploy CT. So it's a different website completely. Okay.
Right. So you would go into that create PUA account, the little tiny writing at the bottom underneath, yep. Don't have an account, create your account there, and write down your password.
Yeah.
It's case sensitive, and also do not bookmark the page, and you'll have to go, email yourself the login page, but don't bookmark it in your bookmarks. And you have to do it. The best advice that we've received also is you really should not do it on an iPhone or a smartphone, not do it on an iPad. You really need to do it on a laptop or a desktop computer. And those are sort of the starting off tips to get through this.
Yeah. And have all your paperwork ahead of time. You will get timed out from this website if you are fumbling around for your pieces of paper. And I guess I think two things I just want to bring up as in addition to what Robin brought up in terms of the unemployment. For the family child care providers, what you really want to look at is your net income, which is going to be on row 31 of your tax return, right? And so the questions that I get are, okay, so my income has gone down. I used to have 6 kids, but now I only have 1 child, right? That 1 child pays me, I don't know, like I just want to use an even number, $100 per week, right? So you need to record that partial income of $100 a week, but you also know that that's not how much you're making because you have to subtract all sorts of expenses from that. And so then the question is, how do you deal with getting to that net number? So the advice that we've been giving is to look at your 2019 tax return. And what you're doing is you're looking at row 7, which is your gross income, and your row 31, which is your net, and taking a ratio. And then applying that same ratio to your weekly gross income. Okay, so for example, if in your 2019 tax return, your row 7 said, I don't know, maybe you made $50,000, right? So 50,000 would represent all the money that you got from Care for Kids, from your parents, right? All the money that came into your program is 50,000. But when you look at the very bottom of your tax return on row 31, let's say it only said 25,000 because you subtracted all the food that you bought, the supplies, your electricity, your rent, and blah, 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 blah. And then you came down to $25,000 in profit. So then your profit margin there is 50%, right? So you start with 50,000 and you ended up with 25,000. You halved it. So you apply that same ratio to your weekly income. So right now, you only have one child coming, and the parent is paying you only $100 a week. So then $100, when you claim your income for that week, you would really be claiming 50, not the 100, right? Because that's really your net for that week, right? Because otherwise it's very difficult to figure out, well, how much was electricity? How much do I deduct for electricity? That's almost impossible. So you use last year's ratio.
You make that sound so easy, Jane. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. If you have like even numbers, it's easier. But really, you just have to remember that. Otherwise, you will have too much excessive earnings on a weekly basis. Okay. Cool. I want to just move on if you don't have any questions. Yeah. So, okay. So then the last big piece of information that I want to share with you about benefits would be the state programs, right? So of course we have Care for Kids, which has been paying based on enrollment since March. So if in March you had 6 kids, let's say you have in May, you ended up having only 2 kids, you're still getting paid for the 6. Till June 30th, you have the same enrollment payment from Care for Kids. But starting in July, you're going to go back to, if you only have 2 kids, then you're only going to get paid for 2. However, there's CT Cares for childcare, and it looks like I listed that twice. I apologize. These are, if you have kids of essential workers, this is a program that pays extra to family child care providers. The next program would be CT Cares for frontline workers. If you have frontline workers, the parents would be eligible. There's an entire whole sort of set of programs called CT Cares for family child care, where you can have many different types of benefits. I just want to launch that website quickly and look at it, just because there's so many of these things, and just show this really great Office of Early Childhood website where you can access most of these state-funded benefits. So I just launched it. It's basically Office of Early Childhood COVID response page, and I've gone to the resources for providers section. Okay. Off to the left, there's a menu. So for providers and running your business, supporting children and families, if you want to sort of read about the other types of things. But under here, there's a section called CT Cares Programs. And CT Cares for frontline workers, the child care program. This is the one basically for hazard pay for essential workers, CT cares for family child care. So this is if you join a network, if you join this program, which is completely voluntary and it doesn't cost anything, you could in the future be eligible for grants. And there's a whole host of supports that will be available to you. Everything from phone consult to webinar support to consultations, and I believe grants coming. Okay, so you can read all about that over here. And then I'm going to go back to my slideshow and mention, so CT cares for family child care where we were. So family child care networks bring all sorts of extra resources and bring a sense of community and a sharing of information. I also want to mention the WBDC, which is the Women's Business Development Council, which is available all over Connecticut. I think they are so there's the national organization that does business development, and there's the women's branch of it, the Women's Business Development Council, and this is the Connecticut chapter of that national organization. And the Office of Early Childhood has partnered with them to bring a lot more business resources. And the other thing is from the Office of Early Childhood, they will be announcing a couple of other programs in the next week or so. One's called a Kickstart program for programs that are starting back up. They've also mentioned a supplies grant. So currently, if you are open, Office of Early Childhood should be emailing you with information and access to supplies right now, where you could have gone and picked up your supplies. But in the future, it looks like they may be offering grants. I didn't know if Robin, you had more information about some of those programs, or?
I actually, thanks. I was driving home from Washington, D.C., trying to listen to the, to Commissioner Bai's announcement of these programs and descriptions of these programs. But it was a little difficult with driving and traffic and other things in the car to get a complete grasp on it. But I know that my impression was that it was going to be a couple of days or so before they get these programs up and running. They're just trying to get the computer platforms in a fashion that will allow people to use it easily and not cause any problems. So they've been working really hard on that. But these sound like, our priority, certainly the priority of the Office of Early Childhood is to get programs up and running as fast as we can, and get people the childcare that they need. And we're going to have all hands on deck for that, being that we have some reduced ratios and things like that, and also reduced staff. I mean, some folks are hesitant about. I've been speaking with some program directors, and there's a handful that are hesitant about coming back. Either they have pre-existing conditions, or they're just not ready to come back, and so we're going to need to like I say, get all hands on deck to get those programs. And I think this is a piece of that work. And the other thing I will mention about the Women's Business Development Council is that is a great resource. They did come on the tri-weekly early webinar, sort of early, that we have for early childhood here in Connecticut. They came on early in this process, probably in early April or so, to share some of their resources, and they had such a breadth of information that would be helpful to small women-owned businesses, and they are more than happy to share it with that network. And the commissioner has made it available specifically for not only family care programs, but for centers and other small businesses. So it's a great opportunity.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, agreed. Um, okay, so I think that's pretty much it. I want to actually just give a couple of different, I just want to go back to kind of, what I was saying in the beginning. During this pandemic, I think the folks who have been most successful are the ones that have been able to kind of put together sort of a jigsaw puzzle of the programs that they needed themselves specifically, right? So again, not this concept of one size fits all, everybody gets this, but it's making sure that you know all of the programs that are out there, and to capture as many as possible that's appropriate for you. And so just even with these state programs, the Care for Kids, the enrollment period, that's ending on June 30th. The CT Cares for Childcare, that's actually ending on June 30th. The $600 extra payment from federal unemployment, that's ending on July 31st. But before you think it's done, it's not, because the OEC is coming out with the Kickstart program and the supplies grant. So there's a series of these things coming, and we don't know what they are, and we don't know how long this is going to last. So I think it's a matter of staying flexible and actually kind of understanding what situation you have, so that you can sort of pluck it at as many of these programs as possible. And don't depend on just one. I think that's really, really key. You can't just say, oh, I got an employment, so that must be it. You really can't. Right. Okay, cool. So, questions, comments?
I've muted the participants just in the time being, while we were doing the presentation, so that we could do it uninterrupted. But because of that, motorcycles. But feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask questions if you'd like, and introduce yourself.
If I have one child, because of the New Haven school closing and stuff, I had 3 enrolled. I had 5, but 2 went to preschool, the 2-year 9 months program and stuff. So I had left with 3 kids. And eventually, because of New Haven school closed, 2 were out because the mom are teacher and psychologist.
Mhm.
So they were out. So I ended up with one little infant, who parents worked at Yale.
Okay.
So I end up have her and been taking care of her. Can I apply for those benefits? Those?
Yes, you should absolutely apply for. Have you applied for PPP?
I applied for the UPA.
The federal
PUA.
unemployment. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know all these acronyms, right?
yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. So you should go ahead and apply for that, but you should also apply, I think, for the payroll protection program.
But just because I'm self-employed and I have 1 kid.
Yes, and that's perfectly fine. So for the payroll protection program, um, I think at first folks thought, because it had the word payroll, and you think like, oh, wait, I'm just myself, I don't hire anybody. But you are your first employee. So there's an employee of 1.
Yeah.
And so what you're replacing is your own salary. And
Okay.
it doesn't matter whether you are open or closed. You would be eligible either way for the PPP.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so with that, um, my income,
Hmm.
because I have a low one kid and paying, I've been using money from my saving funds and stuff like that. Is that gonna be,
No, that's so for the payroll protection program,
yeah,
what they will be looking at, do you
mhm.
have your 2019 taxes yet?
Yeah, yeah,
You
I
did your
did it,
taxes?
but I've
Okay,
been making a loss for the past, like I had 5 kids and going down and all
exactly.
those.
Yeah, yeah.
So I,
So the payroll protection program uh, will give you a loan amount based on your 2019 taxes.
okay.
So it's not really looking at what's happening now. In terms of your losses and what's going, your ongoing, your unemployment should be helping you deal with that,
Mm.
right? So what you would do is, do you already have the PUA, or
I
you're
when
in the process, or
I yeah, it's processing. I
okay?
received 1 week pay and that was it. I didn't receive anything else.
Mm.
Okay,
Oh,
so
Robin.
yeah, that's pretty common. Were you going on and applying every week?
Yeah,
Did you go on Sunday and apply?
yes,
I
I
mean,
did. I
yeah.
mean, my processing last 2 week was processing. I applied and they did from March 29th.
Mhm.
I didn't receive nothing for 6 weeks. Then I received the one payment, and
Okay.
then 2 week after I didn't receive anything back.
And so when's the last time you received a payment?
Uh,
I think
2 weeks ago,
2
one
weeks ago.
payment.
Okay, well, that's not too bad.
Mm.
We can catch you up pretty fast. I will connect with you. You sent me your email, so
Yeah.
I will connect with you offline, and I'll take your information, and we
Okay.
can look into that
Thank you.
for you. You're
Oh
welcome.
yeah, because definitely you should be. Yeah, I think most providers I talk to, basically the school closed on March 13th, and that was sort of the day when, like,
Yeah.
it happened for, yeah, everybody kind of felt it, right? So whether it took a couple weeks to kind of go down from there, but at least, that was sort of the day.
Hmm.
And so many of the providers I know are collecting sort of from that mid to late March point going forward.
Oh,
Depending on your PPP, those weeks you're probably not going to be eligible because you'll be putting in your PPP proceeds as regular wages, and that'll probably mean that you have excessive earnings in those weeks. Um,
mm,
but certainly for all the weeks before and all the weeks after your PPP, you would be getting the unemployment benefits.
And don't
oh,
forget that $600 is not going to last forever. So if
Exactly.
you have how many weeks you said that the PPP can go toward now? You have however many weeks to go now to spend it. 18 or something.
Oh, right. So it's from the end of March until the end of July. You
Right.
get
Or from
600.
whenever you get it, the
Oh,
PPP
right.
money, right? And then
Oh,
you have
right.
that.
Exactly. So for the PPP, it used to be that you had to spend it in 8 weeks. And right now you have up to 24 weeks. You're probably not going to need that long, even if you claim all of the PPP proceeds just for salary, it would only take you less than 3 months to go through it. So it'll probably be about 9 to 10 weeks worth of salary. So that's how much, yeah, that's
yeah.
all. Yeah. It's not like a huge pot. So, but you know what?
I
Every
know.
dollar helps, right? Every
Yeah.
dollar absolutely helps. So,
What about, did you say that you had kids that, or you had parents that worked at Yale?
Yeah,
Are
I have one infant that mom, I had her since her 3 months, and she works at Yale, but she's working home. But then the baby was coming at the daycare because she was working at home.
Oh, okay. So
So
she's not an essential worker per se. She's not working on the front lines, is what I was
no,
wondering. Oh, okay. Because that
no,
would have been
she's in a
another.
business department.
oh,
Oh,
okay. Actually, isn't that an essential worker? I should look that up. I'm happy to look that up. Because there are two programs. What the Connecticut Cares for Child Care is for the essential workers,
Mm-hmm.
children of essential workers, and then there's a second program called the Frontline. So I think they're two different lists. Yeah, so I can actually look that up to see if somebody works in the business office. I actually thought the financial sector was. Yeah.
Have you put your name out for that you have room right now? You have room available? Have you put your name on like 211? Okay, good.
Yeah. I tried to call my inspector because she had visited and she said to contact her when I'm going to reopen more and stuff. But I didn't get through with her. I leave a message and then she never called me back. I reopened June 1st.
Oh, good.
Because
How's it going?
I closed like for the end of April because everything, everybody was home. So I closed from the end of April to June 1st. I reopened back.
Great. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
I have something I'd like to share with you. We're getting on to, I can't believe how fast this time has gone.
I know.
Ladies. But I do have something I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to share my screen. I took a survey of just parents in the community, and it wasn't just Branford. I just put it out there on Facebook and social media. And I asked, host disabled. Okay, can you make me the host again, Jane?
Oh, yeah.
And I asked what their concerns were as far as childcare. Okay, great. As far as putting their kids back in childcare. And I've just been sharing it with anyone and everyone who will listen. So here we go. Oops, except I didn't share it.
Accounting and payroll services are essential. By the way,
that's
Indy.
Great.
Yeah. So I don't know where business.
We should get her that information. So look on the website there. Okay. So I just asked one simple question. You guys can see the screen okay?
Yes.
As a parent caregiver for an early learner, what are you currently most concerned about in sending your child to a child care provider or preschool? I've had 39 people answer so far. Every couple of days I have a few more. And the largest, of course, is our health concerns, right? My child will be exposed to the virus from other children, or that asymptomatic staff will infect or expose children to the virus, or my child will bring the virus home to high-risk folks in our household. I also, and those were all relatively high, of course, 26%, 66% rather, I'm sorry, 66%, 61%, 48%. Some of the lower ones was concerns about vaccination rates of others in the program, being that a lot of kids are not really going and getting their shots from the pediatrician right now for well visits. They weren't so concerned about the safety protocols and procedures at the provider, which I found really sort of indicative of how we really trust our caregivers, and how important that is. Adequate personal protective equipment, so they had faith that would happen. Some of the higher ones that were interesting to me were the impact of attempted social distancing on early learners who may not understand. That one was quite high, at 56%. And I was overhearing a story the other day from a director who was joking that the kids in the hallway were like, as they were sort of lining up and trying to keep their social distance from each other, were, go over there, don't get too close to me, you got the virus. and how they were so aware of it. And this is actually something that is of concern, that the social and emotional stress on that. And then that is actually, let's see, also reflected in, I'm just scrolling down a bit, this question here, this pink bar here, which is my child's social, emotional, and cognitive development will suffer as a result of the coronavirus crisis. That was a huge 66%. So I think that that's a super, that's a concern of folks, is that, our mental health and social emotional health and our interpersonal health as well as our physical health. Some of the other higher ones were about sort of getting into a routine, right? Our child will get into a routine, and then there'll be a resurgence of the virus in the fall, and then we have to start all over again and take kids out. That was 61%. They were less concerned about the communication plans or timeliness of the communication from the provider, from provider to the families. And like, I do think that indicates a level of trust with the people that are caring for our children, which is just a lovely, lovely thought. Of course, the social distancing issue. How do kids can't really be expected to do that. Let's see. Disruption of work schedule. I put that question in there just to see, just to get a temperature on the employers, how they're handling sort of some of the childcare stressors that their employees might be feeling. And it's about 30%, so a third. That's pretty understandable. My employer won't understand if I need to take time off if, say, a classroom is shut down and they have to go back and they have to stay home for 14 days. My employer won't understand. That 15%, that's a great number. That's the kind of numbers we want to see when we're talking about compassionate, communities, I think. If my child has a temperature, I'll need to find alternative last minute care. Not too much worried about it. And some of the other things I could cover here. Teachers are caring, won't wear proper PPE. Classrooms won't be cleaned properly. All trust issues are good. I had put this one in here, updated first aid training or background checks. Low on people's radars. Teachers being tested is low. A little bit of concerned about whether or not a staff member or child has been diagnosed or present. And then, but that's about it. There was a few write-ins, but nothing particularly that stood out with that. So I just wanted to share that with you, if that's interesting.
Yeah, it's great stuff.
What do you do about it?
Data is always so great, so.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. I think, anything else we want to bring up, Jane, or me?
No, but just to check back.
Yeah, I think that, I can share email addresses with us, and we can make sure that we get the information, especially in relation to the PPP and the additional funding. It is, just like it is across the state with early childhood, we are piecemealing funding together, which is just such a patchwork of ways to go about caring for our children. But it's good to have all these pieces to put it together, and to have all these resources and these agencies and organizations and people that care about supporting the folks that are our frontline workers, which are working on the front lines with our kids. So I thank you for joining us, Jane.
Thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Jane.